Hello again. A crisis is said to be unfolding for millions of people caught in conflict, talking about millions of people going hungry in parts of Africa, especially the eastern regions of our continents in the coming weeks. Extreme poverty, inequality and food insecurity are said to be on the rise. This comes as grain imports dwindle from Europe, a byproduct, of course, of the invasion by Russia of Ukraine. The International Committee of the Red Cross is urging global leaders to respond to the crisis. Let's discuss this now with Jörg Eglin, the head of the ICRC Somalia delegation. He's talking to us virtually now this hour, live from Nairobi, the capital of Kenya. Jörg, good afternoon. Thank you very much for your time. It's looking really bleak when you look at the numbers in terms of what you have issued in your statement as the ICRC. I understand there's more than 346 million people across Africa suffering from severe food insecurity today. I mean, what's the solution? That's like more than a quarter of the continent's population.
Yeah, indeed, yeah. And good afternoon, and thanks for having me. I give you just a small perspective from Somalia and a bit across the region. What we are facing currently is almost 2 years of a stretch of drought, of little to no rain, which affected badly agriculture production, and especially in this part of Africa, also livestock husbandry. We have seen a lot of livestock dying or in very bad condition. And this situation stretches across Africa. The Horn is particularly badly affected, but it goes all the way across Ethiopia, Sudan, all the way to the Sahel region in West Africa. And the fact is, it's not only drought that is affecting people, it's the combination of several calamities that affects people. Drought is one thing, but conflict, and that's what we are looking at as the ICRC, is another big factor that drives people from their homes, that adds to hardship. And then you add what you mentioned, the food crisis and the economic crisis now hitting globally. That's another factor that contributes to this dire situation. Yeah. The direct results of that is what we see most visibly is actually displacement. A lot of people leave their homes. A lot of people seek support, aid, and services in urban areas where they hope to get it. Yeah. And the response, now to come to your question, the response to that is actually a dilemma for people like us. We are torn between longer-term programming, which is done by organizations like ours, by governments, by institutions, by development aid, development in general, versus emergency aid, relief aid that is now more and more needed. And there is an unhealthy competition between those two streaks of support and interventions in those fragile countries.
Now, I mean, you look at the impact. We just mentioned food security as well. You look at the impact, the devastating impact of the Russia-Ukraine conflict, and it's still going on, perpetuating this hunger crisis. We are told time and again that some of the grain of the world's grain consumption is supplied by those two countries. What are we likely to expect? What is the ICRC, when you look ahead in the next few months? What are we likely to have happening if there's no relief?
Yeah, unfortunately, the perspectives are not very positive. There's little reason for optimism in the weeks and months to come. The current season that is drawing to an end in this part of Africa, the current rainy season, has again not been good, has been way below average. And we don't see an end to this crisis on the drought front. Yeah. On the other hand, we have what's happening globally on the food prices, also fuel prices, that keeps impacting places like Somalia. I'll give you just a small example about Somalia as such. Somalia has a large population of livestock keepers, of people depending on their herds, depending on agro-pastoralists, and actually there's very little agriculture production going on in Somalia. If you look at the map, you see it's very dry, it's very arid, and in best of times, agriculture production is rather low. But now on the one hand, drought is affecting livestock, the quality of livestock. Animals are dying, patterns are disrupted. So price quality of this livestock that is normally sold on markets is going down, and the prices of food commodities, fuel that is needed often to drive pumps and water sources to maintain livestock is going up. And at the end of it, we have a terrible disruption of what we call terms of trade. On the one hand, selling livestock in order to buy food commodities, and these patterns that have been established over decades are terribly disrupted and put people in a lot of difficulties. So we see that really affecting many communities across Somalia, but beyond as well. And unfortunately, we don't see much improvement in the foreseeable future.
Okay, I mean, there's a call by yourselves as the ICRC, the International Committee of the Red Cross, for global leaders to respond to this crisis. One hopes they are listening. What kind of steps, what kind of response would you be urging them to give?
Yeah. Again, here I'm talking mainly as a representative of the International Committee of the Red Cross, to which we attach strongly, of course, international humanitarian law, and those are more commonly known, the Geneva Conventions. So we call for warring parties, again from a conflict perspective, to respect better international humanitarian law, the basic provisions that are in this set of laws. That means respecting civilian populations, allowing them to have access to services, protecting institutions and services that civilians can access, such as health, hospitals, primary health care. But more importantly these days is also a flow of economic features, so people can actually go about their lives in the best possible way. So if that would be more pushed at the international level and be more respected, would already see much less suffering. On the other hand, it's of course then what I mentioned before, we need funds. Access for humanitarian organizations need to be given by warring parties, and we need support in order to do our work and support the vulnerable communities. And again, in this dilemma, in these two fields, on the one hand, we would still like to push for rehabilitation aid, for development aid, so people can sustain their livelihoods. But unfortunately, we are now pushed more and more towards emergency aid, and we need more funds in order to run those large-scale operations. We are assisting, just the ICRC alone in Somalia, we're assisting about 1 million people with cash programs. Again, cash is a good thing for today and tomorrow, but cash is not something that sustains family in the long run. So we are in this dilemma. We need support on this on these two sides.
Thank you very much for your time and explanations. That's Jörg Eglin, the head of the ICRC, the International Committee of the Red Cross's Somalia delegation.